Hello and welcome to the ECDESIGN 4 video tutorial, which is live recorded. My name is Rickard and I will guide you through the steps of working with ECDESIGN 4. So let's get started. I have my ECDESIGN 4 start menu showing, and that automatically comes up when you run your ECDESIGN software. And in this menu, you get quick access to various areas of the software and actions. And on the top here, we have 5 big icons. The first one is to create your first project or create projects. The second one is open up existing projects that you've saved in the past. Then we have the check for updates button. If you want to check and see if there are any updates, and we do software updates, those are always notified when you start ECDESIGN, but smaller ones where we may have changed objects and added new products, etc. Those will come if you check for updates there. Then we have the tutorial menu icon, and if you click on that, it gets you directly to our website and you can view the video tutorial which you're currently watching. Then you have the support access to our user forum. It's right there. Then on the bottom here, it says your recent projects, and they list the most recent projects you've been working on. And if you want to load a project, just simply click on the button and then select load project. And finally, on the right side here, we have the ECDESIGN Twitter flow. On our Twitter channel, we post updates about new software upgrades and information, and that you can read about right here. So it's always good to have a look at that. And if you're not connected to the internet, it's not going to show, of course. So let's get started with our first project. So we click on the Create Project button. That loads the project menu. And here we're going to go through 3 simple steps. First, we're going to select the name. Let's call this Test Project. Below is the default location where the file will be saved, but you can click the Browse button and select a new location. Step 2, Project Types. You have 2 project types to pick from in ECDESIGN 4. You can start with from scratch with just an empty project, just a grid, or you can select the second option, from drawing, and then you can actually upload your own PDF or JPEG 2D drawing and use as a template for your work. And we're going to look a lot more on this a little bit later, but first we're going to start very basic with empty project. Number 3 here, project settings. We're going to set the defaults for just this layout. First, I can select if I want to do meter or feet. I'm going to stick with meter. Then I have my default thickness of walls and my default ceiling height. Later on, we can customize and have multiple wall thicknesses and different ceiling heights and sloping ceilings and everything. But we're setting the standard here, and I'm going to select 4.2 meters. Then you have the option of showing or not showing the floorboard, which is the baseboard also called, the wood section on the bottom of your wall. But I'm going to leave that marked. And finally, in the project settings menu, we select our materials, our standard materials for walls, ceilings, and floor. And as well here, later on we can customize and have multiple floor types and different ceiling types and different wallpaper materials. We're just setting the standard here. I'm going to click on floor type. That loads our material menu for floors. And you see the categories over here. Carpet, industrial, outdoors, tiles, wood. Custom allows you to upload your own images and place on the floor in this case, but also on walls when you're in the wall menu. And then colors, basic colors. And here are the last ones I've been using, but you can click choose color and select a new one from the Windows color scheme. Just move to a point where you want to be and click OK. And you see it right there. But we're going to select the wood floor for this project. And we'll select parquet number 5. When you click on it, it becomes blue. And then you click Use to finalize your selection. We'll do ceiling type as well. And here you have some standard ceilings with built-in lights, but you can select custom or color as well. So for instance, if you want a black ceiling, you select the black color. We'll stick with the basic ceiling, square lights, and click Use. Finally, we have the wallpapers. And here you can select from assorted, which is glass at the moment. We're going to update with more later on. Then you have bricks, wallpaper, custom again. So if you want to have your custom image on walls, you can use that. Or color. And let's select the wallpaper for this layout. We'll do a white one like that as my standard and click use. Now we're ready to start our project. So we click on the Create Project button and we see the ECDESIGN 2D interface for the first time in full view. In the middle, we have the grid. Here's where we're going to do all our work. And in the grid, you have an X marker showing the 0, 0 point. And you also see the camera icon for your 3D view. That's the starting point. And we can move that around, but we're going to do that a little bit later on. On the top, you have a ruler and also on the left side. Up to your right, you see X and Y for your mouse cursor information. You're going to see a lot more information up here, but right now, when we're in the Room tab, we see X and Y. And I highly recommend using a mouse with a scrolling wheel because then I can scroll my wheel and zoom out. And when I do that, you'll see that the intervals for the rulers change. And to zoom back in, it's very easy. Wherever I place my mouse, that's where I will zoom. So it's point and zoom, point and zoom. If I hold down my right mouse button and move my mouse at the same time, I'm able to pan the layout. You can also hold down your scroll wheel and do the same thing, moving your mouse. I said Room tab a few minutes ago, and I'll explain what the Room tab and all the other tabs are. Up here, we have a tab system. And to keep a very clean interface, we're working with layers, so to speak. And depending on what you're doing in ECDESIGN, you need to be standing in one of the certain tabs. Rooms, you need to be standing in when you want to create walls, create rooms, change floor types, wall colors, ceiling materials, ceiling height, anything that has to do with the main structure of the building or the room. Gaps are doors, windows, and openings. So that one you need to be in when you want to add windows, for example. Then we have the Object tab where we find equipment, models, objects, etc. And then the list goes on, and we're going to look at all of the options. Up here, we have a quick access to turn on or off certain things. Like if I want to hide my grid and just have a white background, I can do that. And we're going to look more on the other options a little bit later on. Now I'm going to create my first wall and what will become my first room. And to do so, we click on the Draw Room button right here. And that becomes blue because blue is the activation color. Then I move out into my layout. And a good starting point is, of course, the 0, 0 marker. And I simply left mouse click and then I move. I don't press down my left mouse button. I just click and move. And when I click again and move, it creates a first intersection, wall section. Now I can move manually, and then it actually snaps to the grid, as you see here. But if you hold down the Shift button, it will not snap to the grid. But once I let go of the Shift button, it does. But here you see I'm standing at 3 meters, and up to my right, next to the X and Y, it also says 3. And that is my current wall length, but I can directly type in a new distance on my keyboard. So let's type in 14.5, and when I press enter, it creates a wall. We need to zoom out a little bit so we can see that, 14.5 meters. Also next to the left to the X and Y, we see the angle of the wall. So here we go, 90 degrees. And if we click again, one time, we create another wall section. And when two walls are parallel like this, we'll zoom in so you see it even closer, you get a red supported line. And if we do a section here, you see the red supported line again. And we'll close this up. And when I do that, we'll actually see that the room is now created. And we see the floor. If you don't want to see the floor, you can unmark that by unmarking Show Floor Color, and we see the grid. You still have the floor there when you go into 3D, and it's still an intact room. It's just that we're hiding the floor color. But I kind of like that, so I'm going to bring it back. Now, before we move on, I'll tell you that you can do changes here very easily. For example, you have an undo and redo button, which you can do at any stage of your project. And that will undo any movement of objects, any changes to your walls, your structure, whatever. So if I move up here and place my mouse, it says undo, and I click undo, start taking steps backwards in my layout. And if I click redo, it builds it back again. So you don't have to worry about doing anything wrong here. Also, you have the option, if we move up here, and I hover my mouse on top of a section of two walls like this, I can hold down my left mouse button and I can drag that wall section if I want. I can also grab a hold of an entire wall and drag it like that. But I want to bring it back to my original distance, 15. So I did undo. Now I want to create another room. So then I click on Draw Room button again, move back out, left mouse click, 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 and close it up. Now we have two rooms. And if you want to add a single wall, you can of course do that inside the layout or connected to another wall. You simply click Draw Room button. We'll do one here, left mouse click, but instead of just clicking once, we double click. That will let go of that wall and we have a single wall right there. Okay, that was the first basic structure that we've created, our first two rooms, and we're going to click the 3D button. That will load our 3D real-time scene. And when you start it up the first time, you will actually have a help guide like this. And I had it hidden, and you can decide if you want to show it on startup. But if you want to open it up again, you simply click the question mark. And with this menu shows you some tips on how to navigate in real-time 3D, because this is a live 3D scene that we can walk around in. And you have 4 different options. And you need to learn the different ways here. The first one that's always active when you enter 3D is the person icon. And you find all your different tool navigation options up to your left here. And here I can, if I'm in the walk or the person icon mode here, I can hold down my right mouse button and look around. So I'm basically turning my head. And if I use my keyboard using the key controls, I can move forward. And I combine my mouse movement with my keys at the same time. And I can move very freely and look around at the same time as I'm moving. The second option is fly. Then we see the layout from top view. And I'm going to close this navigation help. And here I can't rotate or do anything. I just zoom in using my scroll wheel or zoom back out. The next one is game mode, and that's more advanced game controlling, similar to when you play games. Here's another one, orbit, which I use a lot. When I click on that, I see the layout from side view, and I can use my scroll wheel and zoom out. But if I hold down my right mouse button and move left or right, I'm able to rotate the layout, orbit the layout. And if I press down my space key at the same time and move towards me, then I can tilt the layout. So that was a little bit about navigation, but like I say, question mark, click on that, and you have the help if you need that. Now we're going to close the 3D view, and we click the X marker, and we're back into the 2D interface. And now we're going to make some changes to the room here. First of all, if you want to make a change that relates to the entire room, then you simply will click over here, click inside the room. That becomes green. That means it's active. Same thing here. So you have information just for one room right now when you click inside that room. And the information is found in the room property menu on your right side here. And we have a lot of changes we can do here. We can change the ceiling floor height if we would like to do that. I'm not going to do that right now, but you can have a staged floor, a raised floor. Just change the altitude right there. And ceiling height, currently our standard is 4.2, but I can simply type in 5.2. That will be 1 meter higher than the other room. Then I have a few hide and show options, like if I want to hide my ceiling or not hide my ceiling when in 3D, I can decide to hide my floor. Then down here, we see the room area, 113.5 square meters. Of course, that's going to show in feet if you're running feet as your unit. Then I can decide to hide all my walls. The room is still intact, but we hide the walls, as you see right there. And bring it back, click the same button again. Then you have the option to change the materials that are in just this room, such as the ceiling material, if you want to have a different floor material, if you want to change all the walls that are inside this room, or if you want to change all the materials for the outside of this room, facing outside. So for instance, if I want to change the floor here, I don't want to use the same wood floor here. Then I click on floor material. That loads my floor menu, and I can pick from my list here, custom, standard materials, or color. Let's pick the dark gray color and click use. Now it still looks a little bit green because if I click outside here, we deactivate that room. And if we click inside, it's green again, greenish at least. So that's how you can very quickly do changes. But you also have a little bit more changes that you can do. If we click inside this room where we have the wood floor, I can change my rotation for the wall, for the floor, just by dragging it on the slider here. I can change the scale. I can even click the pan floor material button, hold down my left mouse button, and pan the entire texture. So of course this option, or these three options here, are really useful if you upload your own images and place on floors. So you can customize the tiling and make it look the scale proper, etc. If we go into 3D again, you'll see, if we look from the orbit view, that we change the ceiling height and we change the floor in that room. Another cool thing we can do actually when we talk about textures, since we're in 3D now, is that I can change the current scaling and tweak my current material here. So if we zoom in over here, and to do so, I click on the edit wall button up here. And when I move my mouse over one of the walls, it becomes green. And if I click on it, it's going to show a wall material menu for this wall. And I can simply slide horizontally, for example, and we increase the size of that texture. And currently it's changing all the walls that have the same material, but if you don't want to do that, you can unmark copy to same material, and it just changes that wall itself. And you have more options here like panning. If you have an image on the wall, for instance, you use these tools to align the texture properly. And let's change this so it looks the same for all the ones. Finally, before I click done, I want to explain mirror texture here. If you uploaded your own image and placed on one of the walls and it's flipped the wrong way, it's mirrored, then you can click mirror texture and it corrects it instantly. But we don't have to do it in this case. We simply click done. And now we're going to go back to 2D. And I would like to do some more changes here, but just to single walls. And instead of being in the room property menu, because this room is active, we're going to click on one of the walls. And you see when I move over it, it becomes blue. But when I click on it, we get a wall property menu here. And a wall has two sides. And you see it has an A side and a B side. And A side and B side right here. So you can actually do changes such as floor height and wall height just for one side of this wall. If you're creating like a sloping ceiling, you would change the wall height. If you maybe want to have maybe a wheelchair access or something like that, then you can change the floor height and just make it sloping a little bit. But I'm going to leave those two as they are. And then you see the length of this current wall, 14.5 meters. I can instantly here change the thickness. So maybe I want a thicker wall right here, 4 decimeters, and it changes. I can decide if I want to remove that baseboard, floorboard, just by clicking or unclicking. And if I have it, I'm able to change the height of the baseboard. I can also decide to hide the wall, and then it becomes transparent like that. And why would you want to do that? Well, if you want to have a big open area but with multiple flooring, what you do is you create walls and then you hide them and change the texture inside. So if we go into 3D now, you'll see that we have an open area, but we have two different floor types here, and it looks great. So that is how that works. Let's bring that wall back. So we're going to click on the wall and unmark hide wall. So now you see it came back again. You also have the option of curving walls. So for instance, if I want to curve a wall, I click on the wall and then you click curve, and then you go out to the wall, hold down left mouse button, move up or down, and you curve it. And that will show in 3D, of course, as well. If you want to make it straight again, either do the undo button or just click make straight. Rescale layout is something we're going to look at a little bit later on, because you have the option of rescaling a layout that you've done. But we're going to look at that later. We're going to click on this wall again. And as I mentioned earlier, you have an A and B side, and you can change the material for just one side of that wall. And let's change A side. So we click on A side, and let's select wallpaper again. Or actually, we'll upload a custom image here. Let's add a sky or ocean view here and click use. If we go into 3D, you'll see now that we have that view right there, but it's tiled the wrong way. So what you do is you click on edit wall, move into the layout, left mouse click, and then just slide the bar to its proper position like that until you're happy with it, and then click done. So that's how you add your own image. And if we look from above, you'll see that it just changed my A side wall right there. Okay, we'll close that. Now we want to continue, and I would like to add some doors, windows, and openings. So we're going to click on gaps. That will show the gap menu, and you click on gaps right here. We have the 4 different subcategories: doors, industrial doors, openings, and windows. When I click on windows, you'll see 6 different options, and it looks like it's kind of limited choice here, but you can dimension all the gaps to your dimension that you want. So for instance, if I select 5-panel glass right there, and then I'm going to double click on one of the walls, and it comes out. And I can hold down my left mouse button and move it up or down. But if I will just click on it, I see the gap property menu here. And now I can change the dimension here. So maybe I want a 7-meter one. We'll move it into good position. I'll change the height to maybe 3.5. Altitude is the height from floor. And currently I have 2 decimeters, so that's fine. And if I want to add an exact same one somewhere else, I just double click and it comes out. So it remembers that information. But I can, of course, go back and maybe change this to 3-meter sections, or let's do 4-meter and move it to position right there. And what you can do is you have if we zoom in here, you see a black and blue arrow. And in your gap property menu, you have a black and blue arrow as well. And in the middle, it says distance. And you can actually copy a distance here. So maybe I type in 8 decimeters, and I want to copy to my right. And I click black. Oh, sorry, I should, of course, click the blue arrow. And then you get another window. And you can just continue and add as many as you want with the same 8 decimeter distance. So that is how windows work. We'll add a few more. Just double click over here, one, and make another one, make it a little bit wider, 6 meters, perfect. Now we'll add some doors. So we're going to move back in our gap menu to doors, And those, they work the same way. You can change the dimensions, of course. So we'll add a glass door and double click, comes in. Doors, if you double click on them, they change direction. Just like that. And then you have the menu here to change its dimensions. If we take another step back, we have openings, and openings create holes in the walls. So if we click on opening and we double click somewhere, maybe over here, it comes out and I can drag it along the wall and I can change the dimension. Let's make a 2 meter or maybe 3 meter wide opening and have it maybe 2.7 high. Altitude is 0 because this is an opening that I want to walk through. Just like that. Perfect. If we go into 3D now, you'll see that we made some big changes here. Here are the windows, and we see the opening over there, and more windows and the door. And a cool thing, since we're now in 3D here, we can actually see, we see no sunlight coming in from our windows, but the real-time 3D is pretty powerful here, and we can show that. So I go up to sun settings, and that shows my sun menu. Then I can change the direction for the sunlight. So it comes into my room. And I can even change the strength of the sunlight to anything that I want. And then I click sun setting to close it. So now we have the sun coming in. There's another cool feature here. If I click Sky Dome, you'll see different views, 360 views that you can place outside your view, like this. It's pretty cool. You can, and I'll show you that later on, add your own images and place on the outside. These are standard ones and work pretty well, but you can also, as I mentioned, which I will show you later on, upload your own and add to the layout. We'll close this and we'll go to the next tab called Objects. And here you find all the equipment libraries, object libraries. And each main library is marked in black, and I'm running the Universal Fitness version now, but it could be your Body Shop version or Office Space version. It looks the same, it's just different objects. And in the Universal Fitness version, we have a lot of different manufacturers part, and you simply scroll down to the one you want. You will find a few blue libraries like these, and those are standard ones that we provide with. And for instance, in this one called standard, you have indoor libraries where you find generic items. But I'm going to start by adding some treadmills. So I go into cardio and down in my subcategories. And finally, when I reach the end of the category, I see the equipment that I can use here. And now to add an equipment, hold down left mouse button and drag it out, and it comes into my layout like this. And it's actually a real top view scan. So you can clearly see what type of object it is. And when you drag it out, each object dragged out becomes gray like this. We know it's in the layout. And if I place my mouse and just hover on top of the product, we see the name up in your right corner, ETRX. If I want to rotate the object, I simply click on it. Then it's active and it's flashing in green like this, but I can hold down my left mouse button and press on top of the arrow and rotate my mouse and place it wherever I want. And now, once the object is active, when we see that because it's flashing, we get an object property menu here. And the first one is altitude. For this object, we don't want to change its altitude, but if you were adding maybe televisions on the walls, then you can change the altitude and send those higher up on the wall to any height that you would like. Then you have a duplicate object menu, and it's really nice because you can duplicate objects in 4 directions at a given CC measurement. Here it says 8 decimeters, but I'm going to type in 1, which is 1 meter. Then if I click on the up arrow, because I want to duplicate objects this way, I simply click the up arrow and another one comes out. And if I click again and again and again and again, we get all those lined up with 1 meter CC measurement. And I'm going to move that camera icon, which you can do when you're in the Object tab. Now we have them in place, but I can also make a lasso around them and let go. You'll see all of them are now flashing, and I can hold down my left mouse button and move them wherever I want, or rotate them. But we're going to keep them over there. Click outside, they're deactivated. And now we'll take a step backwards. We'll add some other equipment here. Let's add some strength equipment. And I go into one of the libraries, upper body, and we see the equipment for upper body here. And I'm not making any special planning here, but I'm just showing you how it works. So what you do is you hold down left mouse button, drag it out, and it comes in. And once again, you clearly see what type of object it is. And if I hover over it, it tells me it's the bilateral arm curl. And I'm able to rotate it, place it where I would like. But actually this one will keep rotated like that. And we'll add another one and another one. And we're going to actually move them over here. Let's do that. Rotate like that. So you see how simple it is to move around objects. We'll add some more over here, just like that. And we'll add a few over here. Like I said, we're not making any special planning. We're just adding some equipment to the layout. And we'll add one chest press over here. We'll rotate a little bit and move them all together at once. Yeah, that's fine for now. Before we go into 3D, I can show you that you can change color to a lot of different objects. And to do that, you simply zoom in on one of the objects, click on it, and you see that object menu. And when you have color option, it's shown right here. And in this case, I have frame and upholstery that I can change. And if I click, for example, on white, it will ask me if I should want to change all the objects in the same line of equipment. And if I answer yes, it will make them all become white. If I answered no, it would just change one. So we'll click silver again and change them back to gray or to silver. We'll go into 3D now by clicking the 3D button, and we see the equipment right there and the equipment over here. And if you wanted to add that sky dome, click sky dome and maybe change the light direction like that. Perfect. Now it's a good time to show you how you create your first images. And to save an image, because this is, you of course have that option. And to do so, you line up your camera, you click the camera render HD image icon here, camera button. It shows me 3 different resolutions that I can pick from. And you have from 1280 to 1920 up to 4096 pixels. And the first 2 are saved in JPEG format, the last one in PNG to keep its good crispness. Then you click 1920, for example, and we'll call this test image 2. And when I click save, it's just going to take 1 or 2 seconds before that image is saved to your computer. And that final image actually adds a lot more details to the final image. It makes it much crisper, but it also adds floor reflection, window reflection. If you have mirrors, it would show mirror reflections and so on. So it's pretty cool stuff. Normally, if I want to orbit my layout around, I always turn off the sky dome. Otherwise, it looks kind of not okay. But here we go. Quickly, we can rotate and see the layout that we've done so far. It's really nice. And you can, of course, save an image from that view as well if you would like by clicking the render button. Okay, let's close the 3D and we'll take a step backwards. So each black is a main library. And as I mentioned, we have blue libraries which contain generic items that we supply. And if we go into indoor libraries, you'll see subcategories here. And everything from chairs, furniture, plants, televisions, symbols, everything you find in here. So for instance, if I would like to add maybe seating, you have a list of different objects that you can pick from, and you simply drag one out like this. It's flashing because it's active, but if I click on it again, I can select a fabric for this one. So maybe I want a dark gray fabric. Ask me if I want to change the entire line. Well, I could, but I only have one, so that's fine. And it becomes gray. If we take a step backwards, plants, we can add some plants to the layout. And maybe, here's another good one, furniture groups. These are groups of furniture, so it goes really quickly to add them into your layout. So maybe I want to add a front desk in the middle right here. Then I can do that, just like that. And if we go into 3D, we'll see what we've done so far. We'll move over here. You have that reception desk, which was a group, and the individual objects that I placed. And I changed the texture to it. So it's pretty nice. It's a very simple layout, but you understand my point here. Okay, that was objects. Now I'm going to show you how you can add information, text information into your layout. I simply click on labels, and then I click on create label, and you will see information right here. And then I can type in whatever I want, main area. If you want a larger text, you can just select that. And I can move them or rotate them. And when you're in the labels menu, you also have the option of adding object numbers, and I'll explain what that is. First, I click on show object number. Then you'll see that each piece of equipment gets a number to it. And when you're in the label tab, I'm able to move those around if I don't like the position of it. But that number is actually really useful because you can not only print a real 2D drawing, a professional looking one, but you can also print a part list, like a bill of material. So it will list all the equipment, all the objects that's been used in the scene, and that part list has a number which correlates to this number, and it also calculates the quantity of objects for each type of equipment or object. So the objects numbers are really great. For instance, if you have installation people or the customer wants to have more in-depth information on each product and where it's placed, then that helps very much. Now I'm going to show you how to save a drawing. And to save a drawing, you simply go up, or sorry, print a drawing, of course. I want to print a drawing, so I click print. That will show me a preview of this layout that we're working on. And here I select the name for my drawing. Let's call this my project drawing. Then you have free text, and this information, free text 1 and 2, is saved for the future. So basically it's a place where you add your address, etc., email, other useful information that you always want to show in your drawing. You can add a copyright text, and you can upload a logo, and then you simply select logo. We'll add a logo that we can have. Let's add this one, and it adds to the drawing right there. And before I select and show you the different options of printing, I'll show you the menu down here, because you can hide or show certain information. For instance, if I don't want to show my gap measurements, the doors, windows, and openings, I click that, and those are hidden. I can hide my wall measurements also, so it's just a clean drawing, or bring those both back if I want. And hide measurements is something we're going to look at a little bit later on, because you can add custom rulers, and those you can hide right here. Now, currently, floor color is hidden for my print, but if we click on mark, we see that floor color right there. If you want to hide the floor but show the grid, you can do that also. And then we have the show object number, which we talked about earlier. If you want to add the numbers, you can do that. And you can change the text size also if you want to do that. And to print, you can print a real drawing, just send to a real printer or PDF by clicking the print drawing button, or you can save this as an image, and then you click image and it's saved as a JPEG image. And if you would like to print that part list, which we talked about, then you click on part list. And if I do that, it will list all the equipment. The standard objects that we supply are by default unmarked because we don't think perhaps you want them on your print as a standard. But then you select which ones you would like to be part, and then you press close and you save it and print it. And it prints as a PDF. So that's very simple, and I think you will enjoy that. This was the first part of our training. All I'm going to do now is just make sure and save my layouts. I click Save Project, and it saves automatically because we selected a name when we began. Okay, thank you for watching our first video, and be sure to watch the other ones as well and keep learning. Thank you very much.